when you let your eyes rest and allow your mind to drift softly like a leaf floating through the dark. The universe opens itself as if an old companion were inviting you to listen to its story. We often imagine space as endless, stretching on like a boundless field of light. Yet at its farthest edges lie wonders stranger than anything we can picture. Light pauses. Time changes its voice. And gentle, invisible boundaries rise like soft walls, meant only for those patient enough to look deeper. In this video, I will guide you across that threshold, into a place where science becomes breath, and the cosmos turns tender as a lullaby. If you enjoy journeys that slow the heart and quiet the mind, gently tap like and subscribe so we can keep drifting together into the silence of space. And now, step with me into the next question. The true nature of the wall around an infinite universe? When you lift your eyes to the sky, letting your thoughts settle into stillness, the universe appears not only as a vast expanse, but as something alive and breathing. And even when we accept the idea of an infinite cosmos, stretching endlessly into quiet darkness, each of us is still surrounded by a limited sphere, a soft cocoon woven from light and time. This may sound like a paradox, yet it is one of the most beautiful truths in cosmology. As physicist Sean Carroll once said, "We never see the universe as it is, only as it used to be." Every person occupies a single point in space, and that point becomes the center of their observable universe. Not because we are special, but because light needs time to reach our eyes. Every location in the cosmos has its own history of arriving light, and so every location becomes a unique center of vision. Move, even one step, and your cosmic sphere follows you like a faithful shadow. There is no wall built of matter, no barrier fashioned from stone or energy. Only time itself creates this boundary. Time is the quiet craftsman shaping the invisible wall around us, because light travels at only one speed, and it cannot bring us every story at once. Cosmologist Max Tegmark expressed this gently. The horizon is not a wall outside us. It is a wall within our understanding. And so we find that we are enclosed within a bubble of time, not by pressure, but by the history carried in every photon. Each particle of light brings us a memory, a whisper from distant ages. Yet countless events unfold beyond our reach, at distances so great that their light will never arrive. The universe may be infinite, but what we see is only a modest shell of it, a bubble stitched from 13.8 billion years of travel. Beyond that horizon lies not an ending, but simply a region where our gaze has never touched. What makes this even more profound is that the limit of sight turns each of us into a center, not in pride, but in humility. For anywhere someone stands in the cosmos, they too will find themselves at the middle of a luminous sphere meant only for them. This offers a quiet lesson, that truth in the universe does not always match our intuition. And often, what we cannot see may be far more important than what we can. We cannot see the whole universe, even if it is infinite, because we exist inside a structure with a beginning, where light has only covered a small portion of an endless road. Stephen Hawking once remarked, "The universe has not had time to show us everything it is." This realization makes human limitations strangely beautiful. For boundaries demand humility, curiosity, and a willingness to keep expanding our understanding. The finite in our field of view is not the final truth, but only the first whisper in the universe's long symphony. In this contemplation, we begin to understand why the concept of the cosmic horizon matters so deeply. It is not just the limit of observation, but the frontier of our knowledge. Every day, the universe unveils a little more, even as it hides countless stories forever beyond reach. My own view is that this is the true beauty of astronomy. We pursue truth through the very constraints that bind us. Like travelers in the mist, who see only a few steps ahead, yet continue walking because we sense the wonder that lies further on. The universe does not need us to see all of it to be magnificent. The unseen portions give it depth, mystery, and a quiet majesty. The invisible wall reminds us that the darkness beyond is not emptiness, but simply waiting. In that stillness, when breath blends with the night, and old questions drift away, we can almost hear the gentle heartbeat of space, as if the universe itself were saying, "Do not hurry. There is much more I wish to show you." And right at this threshold between what can be seen and what remains hidden, another question begins to echo softly within us. Why is everything spinning, yet we feel completely still? When the world grows quiet and our breath softens, we come face to face with one of the most astonishing truths in modern cosmology. The universe may be infinite, yet every one of us lives inside a bubble with walls. Walls woven not from matter or energy, but from time itself. This contradiction has confused generations, but it is exactly here, at the edge of what we can see, that the universe reveals its deepest poetry. Stephen Hawking once said, "The past is uncertain. The future is unpredictable. But the cosmos around us holds clues if we know where to look." And when we look out into the darkness, we discover that light carries stories older than galaxies, stories stretched across expanding space. This is where the mystery of the particle horizon begins. The universe is about 13.8 billion years old. Yet the diameter of the region we can observe is nearly 92 billion light-years. At first it seems impossible, but the explanation is delicate and beautiful. Space itself is expanding, growing like a slow tide lifting everything upon it. As ancient light traveled toward us, the space between us and the source stretching the distance far beyond the simple age of the cosmos. Light is a loyal messenger, but even loyalty bends when the fabric of space-time shifts beneath it. This is why the early glow of the cosmos, the first whispers of light, had to cross deserts of expanding emptiness for billions of years before touching our telescopes. Alan Guth once remarked, "Inflation does not merely shape the universe. It sculpts the limits of what we can possibly know. That sculpting is what gives us the boundaries of the observable universe, the true cradle of our cosmic perspective. As we drift from the particle horizon into deeper waters, the next boundary emerges like a fading shoreline. The event horizon, It is a more haunting kind of edge, not a limit of what we can see, but a limit of what we can ever touch. There are galaxies shining in our sky right now, galaxies whose ancient light reaches us faithfully. Yet, if we were to send a signal back to them, that message would never arrive. Not today. Not in 1 trillion years. Because the space between us is expanding faster than any signal can chase. As cosmologist Katie Max said, the universe is not just expanding, it is outpacing our ability to keep up. In every passing second, tens of thousands of galaxies slip beyond this horizon. They do not disappear from existence, only from our future. We will keep seeing their past selves, glowing softly across unimaginable distances, but their present and future will never again share a path with ours. To many, this feels like a kind of cosmic heartbreak. To others, it is a reminder that we inhabit a universe far more dynamic than the quiet stars suggest. The strangest part for newcomers is this. Some galaxies appear to be moving away faster than the speed of light. Yet, no rule of physics is broken. Nothing is outrunning light through space. Rather, space is stretching between us and them. Einstein once wrote, "The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubborn illusion." And nowhere is that illusion felt more clearly than at the edge where recessional speed surpasses the speed of light. Beyond that boundary, even photons cannot close the growing distance. Yet the strangest illusion occurs when galaxies cross that horizon. To our eyes, they begin to slow, then freeze, then fade into red twilight. This is the phenomenon often called frozen time. A galaxy at the edge does not freeze because anything dramatic happens to it. It continues its own life in its own corner of space-time. But to us, trapped within our own expanding bubble, its light becomes stretched, drawn thin like a final exhale. The longer the light travels, the more it slows in its arrival, until the galaxy seems to pause on the horizon, suspended like a memory that refuses to move forward. It is not the galaxy that freezes. It is our ability to receive new information from it. What we see is not the present, but the last moment where its light could still reach us. This is the cosmic equivalent of watching someone walk away across an ocean whose tide is rising faster than their steps. Eventually, they become too far to hear, then too faint to see. But somewhere out there, they keep walking. Brian Greene once said, "The universe is not obligated to make sense, but it often does so with remarkable elegance." The elegance here is bittersweet, a reminder that observation is always limited by the canvas upon which reality is painted. These limits are not flaws. They are the frame that allows the picture to exist at all. As we reflect on all this, a lesson emerges quietly beneath the mathematics. Just as we cannot see beyond the observable universe limits, we also live within horizons of our own lives. Horizons of time, of memory, of connection. Some people in our past remain visible only through old light, echoes of who they once were. Some possibilities drift beyond reach, not because we failed, but because the currents of life carried us in different directions. And some moments freeze in our minds, preserved in a kind of personal space-time where they remain forever present. The universe is not only a physical place, it is a mirror, showing us that distance and time shape everything. In my own view as a scientist, the horizon is not a barrier. It is an invitation. It invites us to question, to imagine, to reach, even when we know our reach will fall short. And there is immense beauty in that. Because meaning does not come from what we can see, but from our willingness to look anyway. As the universe expands, so does our curiosity. And as the galaxies slip beyond our event horizon, we are reminded to cherish the light that still reaches us. Every photon that touches our eyes is a survivor, a traveler that crossed billions of years to offer us a glimpse of its origin. We do not lose anything by watching it fade. We gain the privilege of witnessing something truly ancient. And perhaps that is the quiet lesson the cosmos has been whispering all along. That nothing is ours to keep, not even the galaxies, but everything is ours to behold while the light lasts. So as we drift deeper into this journey, let the horizons remind you that the universe is stranger, vaster, and more delicate than we can imagine. And let that strangeness be a comfort, a soft boundary between what we know and what we are still brave enough to ask. Because the next question waiting for us is even stranger. Why does an infinite universe appear to have walls at all? And what does that reveal about our place within it? The expansion of the universe is often described as if it were a balloon swelling under invisible hands. Yet that image, poetic as it is, hides a deeper truth. Space is not expanding into anything, nor is it expanding from anywhere. It is unfolding everywhere at once, like a breath taken by something far larger than itself. As the cosmologist Sean Carroll once said, the universe is not expanding into space. It is expanding of space. That simple shift in phrasing changes everything, turning a mechanical process into something more like a living rhythm. If you look out at the night sky and imagine galaxies racing away from a central point, you are seeing with human intuition, not with cosmic truth. There is no center, no birthplace from which everything bursts outward. Every point is the center. Every direction is outward. It is as if the universe decided that no place should be privileged, that every observer should stand at the middle of their own cosmic sphere. The physicist Stephen Hawking said, "The universe has no edge, no boundary, and no preferred center." His words carry the calm certainty of a man who spent a lifetime listening to the structure beneath reality. The absence of a boundary is perhaps the most difficult idea to accept, because we have never known anything in our daily lives that has no edge. Every room has a wall. Every road has a shoulder. Every ocean touches land eventually. Yet the universe is not an ocean. It is the water, the current, and the waves all at once. Asking where the edge is becomes like asking where the edge of a melody lies. The sound simply fills the space it is given. When we measure distant galaxies and see them racing away faster than nearby ones, we are witnessing the most elegant confirmation of cosmic expansion. The farther they are, the more space sits between us, and it is that space that stretches. The result is not motion through the universe, but motion with the universe. Edwin Hubble once remarked that the universe appears to be rushing apart, but he also sensed something deeper. It wasn't the galaxies themselves fleeing, but the stage beneath their feet, lengthening with every heartbeat of cosmic time. There is a quiet shock in realizing that some galaxies retreat at 3 times the speed of light, and yet nothing illegal is happening. Einstein's speed limit applies to objects moving through space, not to space itself. Space has no obligation to obey the rules it imposes on light, and so it stretches freely, carrying galaxies with it, like leaves drifting outward on a widening pond. Astrophysicist Katie Mack phrased it beautifully. Distant galaxies are not breaking the rules. They are riding the expansion of the universe itself. Her words feel like a hand resting gently on the listener's shoulder, offering reassurance that even cosmic strangeness has structure and reason. And yet, if we slow our thoughts and breathe with the rhythm of these ideas, something more poetic emerges. Expansion everywhere means belonging everywhere. No matter where we stand in the universe, we are not on the outside of anything. There is no outer darkness beyond which nothing exists. No wall to approach. No frontier to cross. We are wrapped gently inside a fabric that is still being woven, stitch by cosmic stitch. The farther galaxies recede faster than light traveling through space, but not faster than space expanding. This is the key distinction the universe quietly whispers if we listen closely. The speed of light is a speed through distance, not a speed of distance itself. Imagine a river whose current strengthens the farther downstream you go. A boat paddling upstream may be moving forward through the water, but backward relative to the shore. Light is that boat, and expanding space is the river. At enough distance, the current overwhelms even the swiftest traveler. Some galaxies are carried away so quickly that their light will never reach us. Not in 1 trillion years. They are part of our universe, but not part of our future. This is the quiet sorrow at the heart of Oban, cosmic expansion. We are watching a sky that is slowly, bit by bit, slipping away. The astronomer Lawrence Krauss said, "Someday the night sky will grow empty, and we will forget the universe we once saw." His prediction is not meant to frighten, but to remind us that the moment we live in is rare and precious. The more I reflect on this, the more I feel that cosmic expansion is not just a scientific fact, but a quiet metaphor for existing within change. Nothing stays still, not even the universe. The fabric beneath our lives stretches constantly, carrying us forward whether we notice or not. We often yearn for a stable center, a fixed point to cling to. Yet the universe teaches us gently that there is no single center, and no one place that defines everything else. Each of us stands at the heart of our own expanding horizon, and perhaps that is enough. When I think about galaxies that move 3 times the speed of light, vanishing beyond reach forever, I am reminded that some things are meant to drift away, not by choice, but by the nature of the unfolding world. And just as we cannot chase a galaxy beyond the cosmic horizon, we cannot hold everything in our own lives from slipping into distance. The lesson is not sadness, but serenity. The universe invites us to observe, to understand, and to release. In this sense, cosmic expansion becomes a meditation. Every distant galaxy a reminder that movement is natural, that change is woven into the fabric of space and time, and every patch of sky that grows fainter over eons tells us that beauty does not need permanence to matter. What matters is the brief moment of witnessing, the quiet recognition that we are part of this vast breathing cosmos. As we drift through these ideas, it becomes clear that the mystery of universe expansion is not only scientific, but profoundly human. It reminds us to be humble before the scale of creation, to appreciate the present moment of visibility before galaxies and possibilities fade beyond our personal horizons. The universe expands everywhere, softly, relentlessly, beautifully. And in its expansion, it teaches us to expand too. The universe speaks softly when we listen. And nowhere is its whisper stranger than in the way distance behaves. Stretching, bending, reshaping itself with every heartbeat of cosmic expansion. When we ask a simple question, how far away is that galaxy? The universe answers with a riddle. A riddle woven from time, light, and the slow drifting breath of space-time itself. Light tells us one story. Distance tells another. And the two rarely agree. Astronomer Edward Hubble once remarked that the cosmos is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine. Tonight, that strangeness becomes the quiet room we sit inside, drifting, listening, letting the mind glide like a lantern across dark water. A galaxy whose light began its journey 13 billion years ago feels like it should be 13 billion light-years away. A clean arithmetic, a straight path. Yet when we measure its true position in the fabric of the present universe, it sits not 13, but 46 billion light-years distant. The reason is simple and impossibly beautiful. As the light traveled toward us, the universe itself unfurled beneath it, stretching like a tide, pulling shorelines apart. The space between every photon and every destination grew, and grew, and grew. So the journey lasted 13 billion years. But the terrain changed so profoundly that the traveler arrived at a world far larger than the one it began in. Stephen Hawking once said that to understand the universe is to understand the language of time. And distance in cosmology is nothing but the dialect spoken by light as it threads itself across ages. Light travel distance tells us how long the messenger has been on the road, a measure of age. Proper distance is the measure of where the galaxy is now. In this moment, co-moving distance is a gentler concept, the distance that grows naturally with the universe, allowing us to imagine galaxies moving with the flow rather than racing through it. And redshift distance, perhaps the most poetic, tells us how much the universe has stretched since the light began its journey. A stretch imprinted directly onto the wavelength of every photon, like fingerprints left by cosmic expansion. Each distance is, true, None contradict the others. Yet each speaks of a different layer of reality. Just as a traveler may describe a path in time walked, or in miles crossed, or in landscapes remembered, the universe offers multiple truths, not to confuse us, but because space-time itself is not a simple road. Einstein wrote that the separation between past, present, and future is only an illusion. When we measure cosmic distance, we touch that illusion directly. Light from a distant galaxy shows us its face billions of years ago, while the galaxy itself continues drifting away beyond any speed we can chase. It is like seeing a friend's childhood photo floating toward us while the adult stands far beyond the horizon. Unreachable. A tender ache lies inside that image. A reminder that everything we observe in the cosmos is already a memory. This is why our cosmic rulers stretch, bend, soften. The universe is expanding even as we measure it, even as we breathe. Every second, new space appears between galaxy and galaxy, between photon and path. A measuring tape laid across the cosmos grows as we look. The ruler expands with the very thing it is meant to measure. Imagine drawing a map on a balloon, then inflating it. Your cities grow apart even though they never move. The space between them simply stretches. This is the essence of expansion. Not motion through space, but motion of space. When we ask why a 13-billion-year-old galaxy sits 46 billion light-years away, the answer is the simple, quiet truth that the universe grows under our feet, and under every photon crossing its depth. As cosmologist Sean Carroll explained, galaxies do not fly apart like shrapnel. They rest in place while the universe itself stretches. The road grows longer with every step. And perhaps this is the most human part of the whole cosmic story. We often feel that life outruns us, that time expands faster than we can follow. We reach for memories, for moments, for distant lights that feel close in the heart but impossibly far in the present. The cosmos reflects this same emotional geometry. What we see is never what is now, only what once was. And yet we continue looking, measuring, wondering, because the search itself is a kind of grace. Even the great physics communicator Carl Sagan hinted at this when he said that to study the universe is to study ourselves, for we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. Our misunderstanding of distance is simply the universe teaching us humility, that not all truths lie within a single measure, a single number, a single way of looking. The paradoxes of distance become softer when we view them not as contradictions, but as perspectives. Light travel distance is a memory. Proper distance is the present moment. Co-moving distance is the rhythm of cosmic breathing. Redshift distance is the mark of time painted onto the light itself. Together they form a four-part harmony, the quiet music of a living space-time. As I reflect on these cosmic riddles, I find a lesson nestled inside them. Nothing in the universe is as simple as it first appears, and yet everything fits together with gentle precision. Distance feels fixed in our daily lives, but in the cosmos, everything flows, everything breathes. everything expands. Maybe the real teaching here is patience. Just as we cannot measure the universe with one definition, we cannot measure a life with one milestone. Meaning grows, stretches, redshifts into forms we never expected. And what feels far away today may be simply a message still crossing the darkness. So we listen, quietly, like observers at the edge of time. We measure, knowing the ruler will change. We wonder, knowing the answers will drift. And in that drifting, we become part of the cosmic story. Perhaps that is why the edge of the universe theory captures so many hearts. It shows us that boundaries are not walls, but invitations to look deeper. That distance is not merely space, but time, memory, and becoming. And as we drift together through this quiet corridor of stars, let this final thought settle gently in your mind. We are measuring not the universe, but our place within it. If you are ready, we may now continue toward the next question. The question waiting patiently in the dark. Why does an infinite universe seem to have walls? And what are those walls truly made of? Light stretches the way a quiet sigh stretches across a silent room. Soft, unhurried, almost fragile. When the universe expands, every beam of light is pulled along with it, as if space itself were gently taking that light by the hand and guiding it outward. This is why astronomers say the universe is not just expanding, it is carrying light with it, lengthening each wavelength, the way dawn stretches the shadows of distant mountains. And as wavelengths grow, colors shift, energy thins, and the cosmos whispers a story of distance written in shades of red. Edwin Hubble once said that the universe is unfolding itself, a quiet remark that still rings true each time we witness a galaxy drifting farther away. As galaxies recede, their light is pushed toward the red end of the spectrum, the color of stretched time. And the farther they are, the deeper the red becomes. This red is not the color of fire, but the color of distance. A reminder that what we see is not what is less than #0. 5 is greater than but what once was. When a galaxy is billions of light years away, its photons must cross an ocean of expanding space. And as they move, the ocean widens beneath them. They stretch. They fade. They slow. Stephen Hawking once noted that time behaves differently near the edges of understanding. And redshift is one of those edges. The light from distant galaxies does not just change color. It changes rhythm, like a heartbeat drifting farther and farther from the ear. Events in those galaxies appear to unfold more slowly, not because time itself has changed, but because the expanding universe stretches the intervals between photons. The explosion of a star that may last weeks in its own sky becomes months in ours, its flicker softened by the widening of space. It is as if the cosmos has placed a gentle hand upon the passage of events, slowing them, lengthening them, asking us to witness with patience. But even patience has its limits. There comes a point when light grows so faint, so stretched, so cold, that no instrument can capture it. The photons are still there, traveling, carrying the memories of stars and worlds. But expansion thins them beyond recoverability. It is like listening for a whisper across a canyon that widens every moment. The voice grows fainter. The echo grows longer, until even silence drowns it. This fading of galaxies is not poetic exaggeration. It is a measurable truth of a universe ruled by dark energy. Beyond a certain boundary, the event horizon, light loses the battle against expansion. Alan Guth described it as a horizon, not of matter, but of comprehension itself. Galaxies beyond that horizon continue to exist, to glow, to spin in their own cosmic seasons. But their light will never again reach us. They slip away not into darkness, but into unreachability. It is a strange sorrow, knowing we live in a universe where beauty constantly retreats, where entire galaxies drift beyond sight, like lanterns carried away by a rising tide. And yet, this withdrawal teaches something profound. It reminds us that seeing is a privilege of timing, that our moment in cosmic history is uniquely bright. Cosmologist Lawrence Krauss once observed that we live at the only time when we can understand the universe. And that realization is both gift and warning. The universe does not promise eternal visibility. It offers only a window, and windows close. As the expansion accelerates, more galaxies will slip beyond the event horizon, their light stretched beyond all detection. They will not vanish, but they will cease to be part of our story. The cosmic ocean continues to swell, lifting each distant shore away from us. In time, the night sky of future civilizations may hold only the faint glow of the galaxies bound to our local group. Everything else will have dissolved into silence, leaving behind a sky that lies about the past. When I reflect on this, I am struck by the tenderness of impermanence. The universe teaches us that even light can tire. Even stars can drift beyond farewell. And even entire galaxies may one day live only in the memory of the photons we once captured. The lesson is not despair, but appreciation. To witness the cosmos is to sit beside a river that never stops changing, to listen to melodies that grow quieter with distance, to honor the beauty of what can be seen before it fades into what can only be known. And so, when we speak of redshift, of time dilation, of fading galaxies, we are not speaking only of physics. We are speaking of ephemerality, of the universe breathing, of light doing its best to cross an ever-widening sea. In that vastness, in that tender stretching of time and color, lies the heart of what cosmologists call event horizon cosmology. The idea that there are boundaries not of space but of possibility. Thresholds beyond which information slips away forever, carried off by an ocean of expansion that no photon can swim against. As you listen, let your thoughts drift gently with these truths. Let the rhythm slow. Let the universe soften around you. And remember that every fragment of starlight reaching your eyes has crossed unimaginable distances to be here now. We are witnesses to a fleeting clarity, a clarity that future beings may never know. And perhaps the quiet lesson is this: what we see is precious precisely because it will not last. The cosmos is not only vast, it is transient. And in its transient glow, we find meaning. Gently, patiently, the universe invites us to listen before the music drifts beyond reach. The earliest light in the universe reaches us like a breath from a time before memory. A whisper released when the cosmos was only 380,000 years old. A child just learning to speak. Before that moment, the universe was veiled in an ocean of hot plasma so dense that photons could not travel even the width of an atom without being scattered. We cannot see through that ancient fog because light itself was imprisoned inside it, caged by free electrons that caught each photon like grains of sand in a restless tide. Only when the universe cooled enough for electrons to settle into stable orbits around nuclei did the fog lift, allowing light to pour outward for the first time. That fossil glow is the cosmic microwave background, a thin, shimmering shell surrounding us at a distance of 46 billion light-years. It is not simply a picture of what the universe looked like. It is the universe's very first photograph of itself. George Smoot once described it as the handwriting of God, while Stephen Hawking called it the discovery of the century. Their words carry weight because the CMB is more than radiation. It is geometry, history, and destiny woven into one cool whisper that fills the entire sky. When we examine the pattern of tiny temperature ripples scattered across the CMB, we are not merely looking at warm and cool patches of ancient light. We are measuring the curvature of space itself. If the universe were curved inward like the surface of a sphere, those ripples would appear larger. If space curved outward like a saddle, the ripples would shrink. But the data tell a different story. They appear just the right size. The size predicted for a perfectly flat universe. It is a result so precise that it feels like cosmic intention. Though of course it is simply physics, doing what physics does. Alan Guth, father of inflation theory, once remarked, "Inflation makes the universe look flat because it stretches it enormously." The CMB confirms that stretching, a smoothness so unlikely without inflation that it remains one of the greatest triumphs of modern cosmology. These ripples also reveal something equally astonishing: the exact average density of the universe. Only one density value allows a universe to be flat, evolve, structure, and still avoid collapsing into itself or expanding too quickly for galaxies to form. And somehow, the universe hits that value with almost impossible precision. 6 hydrogen atoms per cubic meter. Not 5. Not 7. This razor-thin balance is written into the CMB like a signature. Why does this matter? Because density determines destiny. A universe heavier than average curves inward, eventually collapsing. A universe lighter than average curves outward, tearing itself apart before stars and planets can form. But our universe sits delicately between those fates. A cosmic knife edge we still do not fully understand. Physicist Sean Carroll once said, "The universe is under no obligation to make sense to us." And yet, through observations of the CMB, it offers a moment of profound clarity. As we drift deeper into what this ancient glow reveals, we begin to see the seeds of everything that would later exist. Those tiny fluctuations in temperature, 1 part in 100,000, are the earliest ancestors of galaxies, clusters, and the vast cosmic web. Slightly denser regions eventually became homes to billions of stars, while slightly emptier ones grew into cosmic voids spanning hundreds of millions of light-years. What we see in the CMB is not chaos, but potential. The universe whispering what it one day intended to become. And here, gently, the pieces connect. Because the CMB not only shows where matter began gathering, it also reveals how space itself behaved in those early moments. Every ripple, every deviation, every delicate imperfection is a fossilized note from a universe learning how to breathe. The cosmic web of today is simply that breath carried forward for nearly 14 billion years. The infinite universe paradox emerges naturally from this ancient light. If the universe is flat, and if inflation stretched it beyond any imaginable scale, then the cosmos is likely infinite. Yet we only see a finite region, a bubble carved out by the speed of light and the age of time. The CMB is the inner surface of that bubble. A reminder that while the universe may extend forever, our view of it never will. Personally, I find that humbling. The CMB teaches us that our cosmic home is vast, structured, and astonishingly precise. But it also teaches us something quieter, something almost spiritual. We are creatures who look backward in time, reading the faintest echoes of creation, trying to make sense of a story older than atoms. That story does not rush. It unfolds at the pace of starlight. And in listening to it, we learn patience, curiosity, and humility. The lesson I carry is this: the more clearly we see the universe, the more we understand how fragile our understanding truly is. Every answer from the CMB leads to new questions. Questions about why the universe chose this density, this geometry, this gentle pattern that would one day allow galaxies, planets, and consciousness to emerge. Maybe the universe did not choose anything. Maybe it simply is. Yet standing here, wrapped in the afterglow of creation, it is hard not to feel that something subtle is at work. Something beyond mathematics but expressed through it. So let the ancient light speak. Let it remind you that even the silence between stars is full of meaning. That every ripple in the CMB is a note in an unfinished cosmic symphony. And as you drift gently with this thought, as if floating weightlessly through the cool darkness, remember that what we see is only the beginning. The universe continues far beyond the last glow of the CMB, into realms we cannot observe, into infinities we can only imagine. And in that distance, in that quiet, lies the next mystery waiting for us to listen. The universe often feels like a quiet ocean, stretching without direction, without center, without edges. Yet when we study its geometry, a surprising truth emerges. Space is not chaotic. It is astonishingly well behaved. almost perfectly flat to within 0.4%. A level of precision so sharp it feels less like a random outcome and more like a whispered intention from the fabric of space-time itself. As the physicist Alan Guth once said, "Inflation makes the universe look the way it does." And indeed, the calming symmetry we observe may be the fingerprint of forces acting in the first trillionths of a second. When I first learned that the universe is flat to such an extraordinary degree, it felt almost poetic, as if creation had stretched a canvas so smooth that even light could rest upon it without bending. But the scientific implications are profound. A flat universe tells us the density of matter and energy must balance with breathtaking precision. Not too little, not too much. A razor's edge where gravity and expansion hold each other in a fragile harmony. Stephen Hawking once reflected, "The universe must have started off in a very special state." And flatness is among the clearest signs that he was right. Yet flatness leads to a deeper question, one that has echoed through cosmology for decades. If the universe is truly flat, does that mean it goes on forever? Infinity is not something the human mind wears comfortably, but in a flat geometry. Nothing forces space to curl back on itself. No gentle arch. No cosmic dome. Just a silent continuation, horizon after horizon, where every step you take would open another corridor of stars. The cosmologist Max Tegmark once remarked, "If space is infinite, then somewhere out there are infinite copies of us." It's a chilling and beautiful thought. The idea that flatness may lead not just to infinite space but infinite variations of existence. But nature rarely offers only one possibility. Even with perfect flatness, the universe could still be finite if it wrapped around itself in a mysterious topology. One of the most intriguing being the cosmic torus, a donut-shaped universe. Flat everywhere, locally, yet globally looping so that if you traveled far enough in a straight line, you would eventually return to the place where you began. Picture light taking long journeys around such a universe, bending not because space curves, but because space connects. In such a cosmos, a single galaxy might appear in multiple directions across the sky. Reflections of the same ancient light completing different loops through space-time. And so scientists have looked, peering into the cosmic microwave background for repeated patterns, searching the deep sky for galaxies that mirror one another in impossible ways. But the universe keeps its secrets close. No repeating patterns. No duplicated galaxy shapes. No signs that we are living inside a cosmic hall of mirrors. As cosmologist Jean-Pierre Luminet once wrote, "Topology leaves fingerprints in the sky, but they can be faint. And perhaps the fingerprints simply lie farther away than light has yet had time to bring to us." Still, the absence of evidence feels like a gentle nudge, suggesting that the simplest explanation may be true. The universe may indeed stretch without limit, drifting outward like a breath exhaled by eternity. And yet, even as science nudges us toward infinity, part of me finds comfort in the torus idea. Not because I believe it is correct, but because it reminds me that reality can be playful, that even the most serious theories leave room for imagination. As we try to understand why no repeated galaxy images have been found, we return again and again to a single constraint: time. The universe is not old enough for light to have made the trip around a hypothetical cosmic torus, and so the sky remains silent. Every place we look, we see galaxies that are unique, arranged in patterns shaped by gravity but not by repetition. This is both comforting and lonely. Comforting because it suggests our observable sky is honest. Lonely because it reminds us that the truth may lie far beyond what any telescope will ever reveal. If there is a lesson hidden within this cosmic geometry, it is that the universe is both simpler and stranger than we expect. The simplicity comes from flatness, a straightforward geometry that makes calculations clean and predictions crisp. The strangeness comes from what flatness implies: infinite possibilities, infinite distances, infinite versions of everything that could ever be. In this way, the universe mirrors the human mind, smooth at the surface, but with endless depths hidden inside. Personally, what moves me most about this topic is not the mathematics, though they are elegant, nor the observations, though they are precise. It is the humility it teaches. The idea that we stand in a cosmos whose shape we cannot fully grasp, whose edges may not exist, whose pathways may loop in ways our senses cannot perceive. The universe reminds us to soften, to listen, to hold our conclusions gently. As Albert Einstein once said, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. And geometry is one of the places where the mysterious speaks most clearly. Space-time expansion carries every galaxy farther from every other, stretching the map of reality until the lines between near and far begin to blur. In that stretching, we see the story of flatness. In that stillness, we sense the possibility of a looping universe. And in the quiet between these two ideas, we glimpse something like truth. If the universe is flat and infinite, then our journey never ends. If the universe is flat and finite, looping like a cosmic torus, then every step forward is also a step home. And if we have not found repeated galaxies, perhaps it is simply because the universe is still mid-sentence, its story unfolding in light that has not yet reached us. As I reflect on these questions, I find myself grateful for the mystery, for the gentle reminder that even in a world of equations and measurements, wonder has not been extinguished. And perhaps that is the quiet message the universe is offering, a lesson carried in the silence between the stars. That some shapes are too large to hold, some truths too soft to grasp, and some horizons too far for any light to cross. Yet all of them invite us to keep looking, keep learning, keep drifting deeper into the extraordinary stillness of the cosmos. The thought that our universe might be flat yet still finite arrives like a quiet ripple across a still lake, a gentle contradiction that softens the edges of what we think we understand. When I first encountered this idea, I remember feeling the way one feels standing before an endless horizon at dusk, knowing the world extends farther than sight, yet sensing with an inexplicable certainty that there is a hidden boundary shaped not by matter but by the way space chooses to fold itself. Scientists often remind us that geometry and topology are not the same, that a world can be perfectly flat in its local rules while still looping back on itself in ways our intuition refuses to grasp. The physicist John Wheeler once murmured that space-time tells matter how to move and matter tells space-time how to curve. Yet he also hinted at something larger, that the architecture of the cosmos might carry secrets not in its curves but in its connections. I have always loved that thought, because it feels like listening to an old storyteller whose meaning drifts between the words, revealing truths only when we sit with them long enough for silence to do its work. A flat universe that wraps around itself is a shape that resists normal images. It is not a sphere, not a saddle, not the simple canvas we imagine when we look at star maps pinned against the night. Topologists tell us that flatness describes the rules of triangles and parallel lines, while topology describes how the stage itself folds, twists, or loops in dimensions we cannot see. To the mind, this is unsettling. To the soul, it is strangely calming. The idea whispers that even infinite-seeming paths may lead us home again. If space loops back on itself, then light traveling far enough in a straight line could someday return to its point of origin. Like a wanderer who sets off across the world only to find a familiar shoreline rising through the mist. Yet we cannot confirm this vision. Not now. Not ever, perhaps. The universe is too young. Its distances too vast. The light speed limit universe constrains every message we send into the dark. Photons, simply, have not had time to make the journey required to reveal the grand shape we live inside. Alan Guth, the father of inflation theory, once remarked that inflation makes the universe absurdly large. So large that even if it were finite, we would never witness its edges. Stephen Hawking added that asking what lies outside the universe is like asking what lies south of the South Pole, a question built from assumptions that do not apply. Such voices bring weight to our wondering, but they also add a gentle humility, reminding us that the cosmos is under no obligation to be intuitive. We search for clues nonetheless. Deep patterns in the cosmic microwave background, repeated structures in the arrangement of galaxies, matching circles imprinted in the oldest light we can detect. Each is a possible fingerprint of topology, a faint echo of how the universe folds upon itself. Yet every investigation returns, quiet, as though the cosmos has chosen to keep its larger form veiled. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden at the edge of our understanding, that some structures are too large for any one species, any one epoch, any one patch of space-time to fully witness. The boundaries of knowledge are not failures. They are invitations. I often imagine the universe as a vast room where the walls are made of time rather than stone. The farther we walk, the older the light becomes, until it fades entirely into the whisper of the cosmic background. Beyond that whisper lies whatever truth the topology holds, a truth we pursue but may never touch. Still, the pursuit itself shapes us, much like the shoreline shapes the waves, returning to it again and again. Some nights when I look at the stars, I feel an odd tenderness for our limitations. They remind me that awe does not require completion. That wonder thrives in the space between knowing and unknowing. The philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein once wrote that the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. But I suspect that for the universe, the limits of our observation mean the beginning of imagination. And so we return to the question that hovers like soft starlight just beyond reach. How can a universe be flat yet finite? How can a straight path lead back to where it began? How can we live inside a shape we cannot draw? Perhaps the answer is not in equations, but in experience. In the way coastlines curve, though we stand on only one point. In the way a familiar song returns after a long silence. In the way human lives circle themes we thought we had left behind. The universe may be doing something similar, weaving its vast body into a loop that only eternity will reveal. From a scientific view, we know this much. If the universe is finite but unbounded, then our cosmic map is incomplete by design. No instrument can ever travel far enough. No beam of light can cross enough eons. No calculation can escape the limitations of our horizon. The truth lies forever outside the reach of light. Yet, from a human view, this mystery is not a barrier, but an offering. It nudges us to stay curious, to remain humble, to remember that reality is always larger than our models. The universe asks us to hold two truths at the same time: that we are small, and that our questions are infinite. My own lesson from all this is simple and quiet. The cosmos does not reward certainty. It rewards openness. The beauty of the unknown is not that it hides from us, but that it keeps inviting us to look again, to look deeper, to let our imagination stretch beyond the limits set by speed and time. In the end, whether the universe is infinite or loops back upon itself like a cosmic ring, matters less than the way we choose to walk through it. With slow breaths, with gentle wonder, with the courage to explore what we cannot fully grasp. And as we drift onward into the next thought, carried softly by the dark sea of space, one question rises to meet us like a familiar tide. The true nature of the wall around an infinite universe. Inflation began as a whisper in the equations of the early universe. A brief moment when the cosmos expanded faster than any imagination could chase. Faster than light, by unimaginable factors. Faster even than the stories we tell ourselves about beginnings. And yet, this impossible surge was not chaos, but choreography. A silent unfolding that sculpted the shape of everything we now see. Alan Guth once said that inflation is the ultimate fireworks show that left behind only darkness. And there is something hauntingly beautiful in that idea. The universe erupted not in noise, but in pure expansion. An elegant ballooning that stretched space smooth and wide. Like a sheet being pulled taut until every crease surrendered to symmetry. To understand why inflation moved faster than light, we must remember that nothing forbids space itself from expanding this way. The speed of light limits motion through space, not the swelling of space itself. In the first sliver of a second, a trillion times smaller than any breath we could count. The fabric of reality unfolded outward, multiplying its size again and again, doubling in an exponential rhythm that outpaced every law that matter must obey. Space did not travel. It became, and in that becoming, distance stretched faster than light could ever hope to move. And this furious swelling solved the deepest puzzles of symmetry. Without inflation, the universe should be lumpy, curved, uneven, too hot in some regions, impossibly cold in others. But inflation acted like a cosmic smoothing hand. stretching tiny random fluctuations into the seeds of galaxies, while flattening the curvature of space until it resembled a calm, endless plane. Stephen Hawking once reflected that inflation is why the universe looks the same in every direction. A reminder that harmony on the largest scales may come from unimaginable violence on the smallest. The remarkable flatness of the universe, its near-perfect uniformity, emerges naturally from inflation's sweeping gesture. Imagine a small sphere, bumpy and imperfect, and imagine pulling it outward at all sides a trillion-fold, until each hill becomes no more than a whisper, until each valley dissolves into smoothness. This is what inflation did to space, a quieting of curvature, a calming of chaos. But inflation carries another implication, one that unsettles and awakens something deep within us. If inflating regions grow faster than light, then some regions stop inflating earlier, while others continue forever. This leads naturally to eternal inflation, a cosmic engine that may never turn off. In this picture, our universe becomes only one bubble in a great foam of universes, each with its own laws, its own constants, its own history. Max Tegmark once suggested that if you go far enough in the multiverse, everything that can happen will happen. And in the quiet spaces between stars, that thought feels both terrifying and tender. If inflation creates multiverses, then we live not at the center of everything, but within a delicate pocket of conditions that allow complexity to rise. Most of the multiverse may be sterile, too curved, too violent, or too brief for atoms to settle into the dance we call life. The fact that we exist here, in this calm, cosmic neighborhood, is not a declaration of importance, but a quiet acknowledgement of fragility. Life flourishes only where space has softened its expansion, where temperatures sink into the narrow envelope between burning and freezing, where stars have time to mature, and planets have time to cool, and atoms have time to join hands and become chemistry. In the vast tapestry inflation may have woven, such pockets might be rare enough that each world with life becomes a kind of luminous exception. And here, somewhere near the edge of a quiet spiral galaxy, you and I are listening to this together, letting these thoughts drift through us like soft tides. The strangeness of inflation is not just mathematical, it is emotional. It tells us that the universe grew too quickly for cause and effect to keep pace, that entire regions were hurled beyond any hope of contact, that the visible world is only a fragile bubble surrounded by distances we cannot cross. And yet, in this bubble, life found a foothold. Consciousness opened its eyes and began to ask what lies beyond. When I reflect on inflation, I feel both humbled and strangely comforted. Humbled because our entire observable universe may be a small, shimmering patch in a limitless quilt. Comforted because the laws that shape this patch were gentle enough to let stars ignite slowly, planets condense patiently, and beings like us wonder why things are the way they are. Sometimes I imagine inflation as a breath, a long exhale from the lungs of the cosmos, one that still echoes today as space expands, carrying galaxies farther and farther apart, And I wonder whether every universe in the multiverse carries its own breath, its own rhythm, its own way of singing itself into existence. The more I learn, the more I feel that cosmic understanding is not only an achievement of the mind but a softening of the heart. Because what inflation shows us is not dominance or certainty, but delicacy, balance, and the improbable comfort of being alive in one of the few quiet corners warm enough to permit thought. And so my reflection becomes a lesson. That vastness does not erase meaning. It clarifies it. We find significance not by being central, but by being aware, present, awake to the improbable gift of existing in a universe that could easily have been inhospitable. Inflation stretches the mind until it touches the horizon of what can be imagined, then gently invites the heart to catch up. It is a theory that sings of beginnings, of possibility, and of the quiet truth that even something born from violence can give rise to beauty. As we drift through these ideas, floating between the certainty of equations and the uncertainty of wonder, we return to a simple realization that our universe, with all its symmetry, flatness, and quiet stars, may be one of countless notes in an eternal cosmic symphony. And perhaps that is enough. Enough to feel awe, enough to feel gratitude, enough to close our eyes tonight, knowing we inhabit a rare and luminous island, floating in an ocean of unimaginable possibility. In this moment, as your breath slows and the universe softens around you, remember that inflation did not just shape galaxies. It shaped our opportunity to ask, to listen, to wonder. And that, in the end, may be the most extraordinary gift of all. Beyond the limits of our vision, beyond the soft horizon where ancient light surrenders to the dark, lies a region of the cosmos that feels more like whispered mythology than measurable science. The unobservable universe, the place where our telescopes fall silent, has always tugged gently on the imagination. And yet, in the language of cosmology, it is not a metaphor, not a poetic invention, but a mathematically unavoidable truth. There is more out there, infinitely more, than the small illuminated sphere we call our observable universe. Light has a finite speed, and the universe a finite age. Together they weave a boundary around us. Not a wall of stone, but a boundary of time and distance. Everything beyond that limit continues to exist, continues to evolve, continues to glow with the fire of stars and the slow pulse of galaxies. But none of that light will ever reach us. As the physicist Sean Carroll once said, the universe is much bigger than the part we can see. So much bigger that calling our view a tiny fragment feels like an understatement. His words are a reminder that humility is not optional when confronting the cosmos. It is a requirement. If we could remove the limits of light, if we could quiet the stretching of space that pulls galaxies away from us faster than their photons can close the distance, what would we find? Somewhere beyond our reach, there are galaxies forming new suns, weaving spiral arms, shaping worlds that will never be reflected in any mirror we build. The thought feels both heartbreaking and beautiful. like knowing music continues to play in a distant room long after the door has closed. Some cosmologists believe those unreachable regions are mirror copies of our own, built from the same physics, sculpted by the same laws. Others, following the logic of inflation, suspect something far stranger. The early universe may have expanded not as a single smooth bubble, but as a froth of countless bubbles, each separating from the others and forming its own cosmic identity. Alan Guth, father of the inflation theory, once remarked, "Inflation is not something that happened once. It is something that may be happening forever." If he is right, then beyond the invisible boundary lies not only more space, but more universes. Regions with different densities, different histories, perhaps even different physical constants. It is tempting to imagine these other regions as siblings of our own universe, growing and drifting in a vast cosmic ocean. Some may be quiet, thinly spread, almost empty. Others may be rich and overflowing, thick with matter. Some may ignite stars quickly, then burn out in silence, while others may remain dark forever. In this view, our cosmic home is not unique, only nearby. And the observable universe becomes a lantern glowing inside a much larger night. Yet not all cosmologists agree on what lies outside. Some caution against assuming sameness, warning that the unobservable universe could differ profoundly from our own. The great physicist André Linde once suggested, "The part of the universe we see is like a single snowflake in a blizzard." His metaphor hints at a deeper truth. We have no guarantee that conditions elsewhere are even remotely familiar. If gravity behaves the same here and there, if matter condenses the same way, if stars live and die in similar rhythms, then the distant universe may echo ours. But slight changes in fundamental constants could transform everything. A universe where atoms cannot form, where stars collapse instantly, or where chemistry never awakens into life. And what if our cosmic region is just one bubble among countless others, each with its own laws, its own clocks, its own canvas of possibility? Astronomer Martin Rees once said, "The universe we see may be a trivial part of what exists, just one island in an archipelago beyond counting." That idea, more than any other, pushes us toward the edge of understanding, and beyond that edge into imagination. There is a quiet lesson hidden in these cosmic speculations. The farther we look outward, the more we are invited to look inward. The limits of observation remind us of the limits of certainty. Our instruments reveal the universe not as it is, but as far as light has carried news of it. What lies beyond that frontier remains a horizon not only in space, but in humility. We often think of scientific knowledge as a ladder climbing ever upward, reaching toward answers. But cosmology teaches a different story, one in which every answer expands the mystery. The more we learn, the more infinite the universe becomes. As a scientist, I find deep comfort in this. The unknown is not the enemy of understanding. It is the soil in which wonder grows. The parts of the universe we will never see remind us that reality exceeds imagination. and that awe is sometimes more valuable than certainty. What lies beyond our cosmic horizon may always remain hidden, but it is not lost. It lives its own story, burns its own stars, carves its own galaxies, and in doing so, it deepens the meaning of the part we can see. The observable universe may be only a single verse in a cosmic poem, but it is a verse filled with light. And as you drift with me through these thoughts, slowly, gently, remember that the edge of the observable universe is not an ending, but an invitation. An invitation to imagine what waits in the dark. An invitation to accept that mystery is part of the universe's design. An invitation to breathe deeply and let the cosmos remind you how small and how precious our place in it truly is. Perhaps that is the quiet lesson left for us by the unseen universe. That even when we cannot see something, we are still connected to it by the simple act of wondering. And sometimes, wonder is enough. Beyond the observable universe is not just a scientific phrase. It is a gentle reminder that knowledge has horizons. And beyond every horizon, more sky awaits. In an infinite universe, the idea of another you breathing beneath another sky feels both impossible and strangely gentle. It drifts into the mind like a soft tide, a reminder that existence may be far wider than the narrow beam of reality we stand inside. Scientists often begin with the simple observation that in a cosmos without end, every arrangement of particles must eventually repeat. And because the particles that make you are finite, but space is endless, there will come a place, impossibly distant, where the universe assembles the same pattern of atoms that formed your body and your thoughts. Max Tegmark once said, "With infinite space, even the most unlikely events must take place somewhere." His voice carries the calm certainty of a mathematician who has spent a lifetime staring at the horizon of possibility. And his conclusion feels like a lantern glowing in the darkness around us. Somewhere in the deep fabric of space, a person with your face, your memories, your laughter, might be walking home beneath an unfamiliar constellation. Somewhere else, a version of you paused at a different crossroads, made a different choice, and lived into a life that feels like the whisper of a dream against your skin. When we stretch that logic from people to planets, the universe grows even stranger. A world like Earth, with oceans breathing against the shore, with forests whispering the language of wind, with civilizations rising and falling like moonlit tides, becomes not a miracle but an inevitability. If infinite space holds infinite chances, then the story of Earth must be written many times across the celestial page. Carl Sagan once reflected that the universe is not obliged to make sense to us. And perhaps this is what he meant, that the vastness above us carries patterns so immense, so patient. That repetition becomes a quiet truth rather than a paradox. Yet there is tenderness here, not fear. The thought that worlds repeat does not diminish our own. It simply opens the heart to a larger cosmic rhythm. In the same way, a single wave means more when we understand the ocean. A single life feels deeper when framed inside the endless canvas of the universe. If all possibilities unfold somewhere, then your joys, your regrets, Your silent hopes become part of a cosmic pattern rich enough to hold every version of you with quiet compassion. Some physicists imagine this infinite repetition through the lens of probability. They note that the number of quantum states in any human body is enormous yet finite. Combine that with infinite volume, and the repetition of identity becomes mathematically unavoidable. Brian Greene once described it like this: infinity is not a large number. It is a different kind of beast altogether. His words drift softly, almost like a reminder that our intuition cannot follow us into the deepest waters of cosmology. And still, people wonder, if another version of me exists, does that diminish who I am? If another earth shines beneath another sun, does it make our home less rare? I would answer with gentleness, no. Because repetition in an infinite universe does not erase meaning. It amplifies it. It tells us that consciousness is not an accident, but a melody so beautiful that the cosmos plays it again and again. It reminds us that life is not a single fragile flame, but a constellation of lights scattered across eternity. When we look at the night sky, we see stars that shine with a kind of ancient patience. They whisper that the universe has time for every possibility, even the smallest one. If there are versions of you walking beneath those distant stars, they are not rivals. They are reflections. They are pages of the same vast book, each carrying a slightly different sentence, each adding depth to the story of what it means to be alive. As I drift through these thoughts, I feel a quiet lesson settling into place. That every choice matters not because it is the only one, but because it is the one that is yours. That even if countless versions of you walk the universe, only you breathe in this moment. Only you hear these words. Only you feel the weight and wonder of your life as it unfolds right now. Infinity does not erase individuality. It frames it. So perhaps the presence of infinite copies does not reduce us. It humbles us. It teaches us that our existence is woven into something so large, so quiet, so filled with possibility that the mind can barely touch it. And yet, it invites us to try. When I think of endless versions of Earth, I imagine not competition but harmony. A universe where the song of life is played in 1,000 keys, where every world is a variation on a theme carved from starlight. Some Earths may flourish, some may fall, some may never awaken at all. But each belongs to the same cosmic experiment, the same long breath of the universe seeking to know itself. And somewhere in that immensity, the possibility of countless outcomes becomes strangely comforting. It says that nothing is lost, that even the paths we do not take continue somewhere, alive in another corner of infinity. As the thought deepens, a quiet truth rises like dawn inside the mind. Perhaps the universe is not asking us to understand its scale, but simply to stand in awe of it. Neil deGrasse Tyson once said, "We are part of this universe. We are in this universe." But perhaps more important than both of those facts is that the universe is in us. His words ring especially true here, because if infinite versions of us exist, then the universe is exploring itself through countless human stories. I find beauty in that. The idea that we are not isolated, sparks flickering against a cold void, but echoes within a continuum of existence far greater than our imagination allows. We are not small. We are repeated. We are reflected. We are part of a cosmic mosaic so vast that every life becomes a gemstone set in an infinite crown. As you listen, perhaps lying back, breathing slowly, letting the room fade into a gentle blur, allow this idea to settle like stardust on still water. You are unique, even if repeated. You matter, even in infinity. Your story is precious, even if written 1,000 times. And in the quiet between thoughts, you might feel a soft understanding rise, that the universe is not vast because it is empty, but because it is full of possibilities, full of reflections, full of versions of you wandering through forever. And perhaps that is enough. The future of cosmic observation drifts before us like a dim horizon wrapped in quiet starlight. And when we allow ourselves to imagine the universe not as it is today, but as it will be 100 billion years from now, something inside us softens. Something grows still. The night sky of that distant era will not belong to the universe we know, nor to the vast tapestry astronomers have spent centuries stitching together from faint whispers of ancient light. It will be a night stripped of memory, a sky too clean, too silent, too empty to tell its own story. And those who look upward then will find only a handful of lonely galaxies huddled together like the last embers of a fading fire. The truth they see will be painfully convincing, because evidence is powerful only when it exists within reach. In that age, the cosmic microwave background will have stretched into wavelengths so long they slip into invisibility. A ghost dissolved into the dark. The galaxies we now rely on to map the shape of the cosmos will have receded beyond every possible horizon, their last photons swallowed by the relentless swelling of space. As astrophysicist Lawrence Krauss once said, "Someday there will be nothing left for the universe to remember itself with." Those future observers will stand beneath a sky that lies to them, not through intention, but through absence. They will see only the galaxies of their local group, serene and motionless, held together by gravity that still resists the stretching of space-time. Every other point of light will have drifted beyond communication, beyond interaction, beyond discovery. And so to them the universe will appear calm, eternal, static. They will believe what their senses suggest, that the cosmos has always been this small, this quiet, this self-contained. It is a paradox almost tender in its sadness, that the more the universe expands, the less of it remains visible. Dark energy will continue to push galaxies apart with a patience that borders on inevitability, creating a future in which the act of seeing becomes a shrinking privilege. What today is a cosmos rich with structure and history will one day become a private island of stars, drifting alone in a sea whose waves can never be felt. Brian Greene once reflected, "The universe is under no obligation to make itself knowable." And perhaps he was speaking not only of complexity, but of time itself. In that far epoch, the very idea of a Big Bang will become impossible to conceive. because all the clues that point backward toward that fiery beginning will have vanished beyond reach. No ancient light to map, no distant galaxies to measure, no expanding fabric to decode. The universe will hide its birth the way an ocean hides its source, slowly smoothing every ripple until only stillness remains. Scientists of that distant future will turn to their skies with the same yearning we feel today, but they will find their path to truth strangely sealed. Dark energy will act as a velvet blindfold, gentle yet absolute, leaving them to build theories from fragments too small to reveal the larger whole. They will measure starlight hoping for drift, but detect none. They will search for the afterglow of creation, but find only silence. They will look for the curvature of space, but encounter a horizon too near to allow conclusions. And in the absence of evidence, they will construct the only story that fits their observations. A universe eternal, stable, unchanging. A cosmic stage untouched by beginnings or endings. The same conclusion our ancestors once held, though for very different reasons. Carl Sagan warned us long ago. We are the custodians of the universe's memory. And his words feel heavier when we realize how temporary that custodianship truly is. If they could speak to us across that gulf of time, they might ask why their skies are so empty, why the cosmos offers them so few clues. And we would answer, gently, that the universe they inherit is not the universe they stand within, but only the last remaining island of what once was infinite to the eye. The fading of cosmic evidence is not a punishment, only a consequence of distance growing faster than knowledge can chase. And yet there is a kind of wisdom hidden within this drift toward cosmic blindness. It reminds us to listen carefully while the universe is still speaking, to observe while the windows remain open, to learn while the stars still whisper their stories through the thin veil of time. It asks us to appreciate the fragile privilege of our moment, a moment when galaxies still populate the night like notes on a cosmic score, when ancient light still reaches our eyes, when the background glow of creation has not yet faded into absolute silence. This is our era of clarity, our brief alignment with cosmic truth, our fleeting place in the universe's long breath. As I reflect on that distant future, I find myself returning to a simple thought. Knowledge is not merely the accumulation of facts, but the presence of opportunity. We understand the Big Bang because light still reaches us, because galaxies still exist within view, because expansion has not yet erased the evidence we rely on. Remove those opportunities, and even the brightest minds will wander in the dark. There is a gentle lesson here, not wrapped in urgency, but in reverence. The universe does not owe us understanding, yet it offers it freely for a time. Our responsibility is simply to pay attention, to observe with humility, to learn without assuming the window will stay open forever. And so, as we imagine the future of cosmic observation slipping slowly into silence, we are reminded of our place in this vast narrative. We are the listeners living at the perfect moment between the universe's bright beginning and its quiet retreat. And if dark energy will one day close the curtains, then now is the time to marvel. Now is the time to question. Now is the time to let the cosmos pass through us like breath. Physicist Sean Carroll once said, "The universe is under no obligation to make sense to us, yet it often does for reasons we barely understand." His words echo like a soft chime across this meditation on the far future, because they capture the truth that knowledge itself is temporary, a gift offered in one era and withheld in another. And perhaps the deepest reflection is this, that what disappears from sight does not disappear from being. The galaxies that fade will still exist, living out their long destinies beyond our reach. The evidence of creation will still echo somewhere, though we may no longer hear it. And the universe will continue unfolding its ancient story regardless of whether anyone remains to read it. In that understanding there is melancholy, but also peace. For the universe is not shrinking, only our window into it. And perhaps that shrinking horizon teaches us the final lesson. That meaning does not come from how much we can see, but from how deeply we choose to look while the light is still with us. The universe has a quiet way of reminding us that we are brief visitors wandering through a story far older than memory. And sometimes I wonder whether we have arrived at a strangely privileged moment, a moment when the cosmos still leaves a trail of ancient light for us to follow. Every night, when we lift our eyes into the dark, we are not just looking outward, we are looking backward. The glow that touches us has traveled for billions of years, carrying whispers from a time when galaxies were young. Yet there will come a day when this evidence fades, stretched beyond recognition, until the universe hides its own beginning from every future mind. Cosmologist Lawrence Krauss once said that we live at a special time because we can still see the cosmic microwave background, and in the far future no one will be able to observe it. Stephen Hawking added that the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine. Their words echo softly when we consider how much of reality might already lie beyond reach. And so we ask ourselves, with a mixture of humility and longing, whether we ever truly understand the universe, or whether we only understand the thin slice of it that light allows us to see. We speak of cosmic structure, dark energy, deep time. Yet all our knowledge resides inside a fragile bubble of visibility. Everything outside that sphere remains a dream, or a silence. Astronomer Vera Rubin once said that the universe we know is just the tip of the cosmic iceberg. And her voice carries the gentle warning that our greatest certainty is still wrapped in the unknown. When I think about this, there is a bittersweet calm that follows, because it means that all our discoveries, all our theories, all our confident equations, are really conversations with shadows. We listen to echoes, interpret ghosts, and build meaning out of the light that has survived the journey to meet us. But what about the countless truths that never arrived? The galaxies whose light was stretched beyond detection long before our species ever opened its first curious eyes. What about the cosmic events that unfolded in silence? Too distant, too hidden, too quickly swallowed by expansion for anyone to witness. Neil deGrasse Tyson once remarked that the universe is under no obligation to make sense to us. And his words feel truer the more we recognize how much has been erased by time itself. Sometimes I imagine the early eras of the cosmos as vast libraries whose pages have already turned to dust. chapters lost before humanity ever learned to read the sky. Entire epochs of stellar birth, collisions, metamorphoses, all gone beyond the cosmic horizon. We walk through the night as travelers who arrived late to the story, trying to piece together the opening scenes from scattered fragments of ancient light. And yet, there is beauty in this limitation, because it invites us to listen more carefully, to study every faint signal, to honor the miracle of what still remains visible. There is a gentle lesson in all of this. The universe reminds us that knowledge is not possession. It is participation. We are not owners of truth. We are guests in its presence. We stand on the boundary between what can be known and what forever escapes us. And that boundary moves with every second that passes. Dark energy stretches the cosmos, sending galaxies adrift faster than their light can return. The map of the visible universe shrinks in terms of what remains reachable, even as it expands in terms of ancient light still on its way toward us. What a paradox, that the universe opens and closes simultaneously. I find myself reflecting on our place within this shifting landscape. Perhaps the true wonder is not that we understand so little, but that we understand anything at all. Carl Sagan once said that we are a way for the cosmos to know itself. And when I sit with that idea, breathing slowly, letting the thoughts settle, it feels like an invitation rather than a conclusion. An invitation to look, to listen, to feel the mystery instead of trying to conquer it. Because curiosity is the bridge that connects a finite mind to an infinite world. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes that our greatest teacher is silence. Silence between galaxies. Silence inside the dark matter we cannot touch. Silence in the unanswered questions that linger like soft shadows at the edge of thought. And yet, that silence does not diminish us. It humbles us, focuses us, guides us to the realization that understanding is not a destination but a rhythm, a gentle pulse, like starlight on calm water. We might never know how many secrets have slipped beyond view, carried away by expansion long before life appeared on Earth. We might never know how much of reality is hidden behind the veil of the unobservable. But perhaps the lesson is not to mourn what is lost, but to cherish what remains. The faint glow of the first light, the patterns written across the sky, the soft imprint of creation still lingering on the cosmic background. These are gifts, brief and fragile, given to a species that arrived in the dark and learned to kindle its own light. If I have learned anything as a scientist, and as a wanderer of the night sky, it is that the universe rewards humility. The more gently you approach it, the more willingly it reveals its truths. And the more you accept that some answers will always escape, the more meaningful the search becomes. Perhaps we are living in the one fleeting era when the past still shines through, when the universe has not yet folded its memories away. Perhaps this moment, right now, is the only time in cosmic history when beings like us can witness the universe telling its own origin story. If so, then our responsibility is simple: to listen, to wonder, and to carry these fragile truths forward. In the end, The paradox of perception is not a prison. It is an invitation to awaken, to see with more than the eyes, to understand that science and awe are not opposites but companions. And as we drift through this vast and quietly breathing cosmos, perhaps the most important question is not how much we can know, but how deeply we allow the mystery to change us. As our journey drifts toward its quiet end, let your breath settle. Let your thoughts soften like starlight dissolving into the dark. We have wandered together through horizons that move as we look at them, through questions that refuse to stay still, through a universe that reveals itself only in fleeting fragments. And yet, in those fragments, there is wonder enough to fill a lifetime. Perhaps the greatest truth we carry forward is this: what we see is not all that exists, but what we can feel, what we can imagine, what we dare to ask. These open doors to worlds our eyes may never reach. The universe may hide its earliest memories from the future, but for now, in this fragile moment of cosmic clarity, we are allowed to listen. Thank you for sharing this quiet passage through the stars with me, for giving your time, your presence, your curiosity. If these gentle explorations bring you peace, or spark a small flame of wonder in the dark, please linger with us. Tap like, subscribe, and continue this journey into the soft breathing of the cosmos. Until our next night under the same ancient light, stay curious, stay awake to the mystery.